These two men are about to befriend an alien and go on a road trip that takes them back to his spaceship. However, they aren't the only ones who know about his existence. In Moorcroft, Wyoming in 1947, a young girl's dog named Paul is excitedly asking to be let out. The dog goes out and starts barking at the sky. The young girl comes out to check what's the matter with the dog, and a bright light fluctuates in the distance. The last thing the dog sees is a giant spaceship hurling straight toward it. In the present day, two nerds, Graham and Clive, have traveled all the way from England to San Diego, California to attend Comic-Con. They are very excited. They meet a legendary writer named Adam Shadowchild. Clive shares the fantasy novel he's working on with Adam, and Adam is impressed by the cover art, which is designed by Graham. It shows a woman with 3 breasts. He thinks it's awesome. After Comic-Con, the two nerds plan a road trip that takes them to all the most popular UFO sighting spots in America, because they are huge fans of UFO conspiracy theories and strong believers that the aliens have visited Earth. They rent an RV to make the trip. After visiting several of the popular spots, Clive and Graham stop at a UFO and alien-themed restaurant. 2 rough-and-tough rednecks arrive at the restaurant, and Graham tries to be friendly with them. It doesn't work. The rednecks think that Clive and Graham are gay and are repulsed by them. Feeling threatened, Clive and Graham quickly run out. As they are about to leave, they accidentally dent the car of the rednecks. They drive away as fast as possible. Next, Graham and Clive are taking pictures at another popular UFO sighting spot when they see a car coming in the distance. They get scared thinking that the rednecks have followed them and start driving away in the RV at full speed. Soon, the car behind them catches up, and it turns out it's not the rednecks, it's just some random car. However, suddenly, the car swivels out of control and crashes horribly. Clive and Graham step out of the RV to help whoever is in the car. They look inside and find that no one is there. Clive is about to call 911 when they hear a voice from behind. A being that looks exactly like every cliché of an alien emerges from the dark, smoking a cigarette. Clive faints at the very sight of him. Graham panics and asks the alien if he is going to probe them. The alien angrily asks why everyone thinks that. How much can he really learn from a butt? Then the alien calms down and introduces himself. His name is Paul, which is a nickname he got because his ship crash-landed on top of a dog named Paul when he got here many years ago. Graham is still panicking, but Paul says they need to get out of there quickly. They both pick up Clive, and Paul notices that he has peed his pants. In the RV, Paul tells Graham to remain calm and just drive north as fast as he can, because he needs to get far away from someone named the Big Guy. Back at the site of the car crash, an agent named Zoyle arrives and finds the puddle of pee. He informs the Big Guy that Paul has escaped over the radio. The Big Guy is revealed to be a woman, who tells Zoyle that perhaps it's time to involve the military. Zoyle says that will attract unnecessary attention. He can handle this. The Big Guy says that she has 2 rookies on a mission nearby, and she will have them set up a roadblock in case Paul has gotten on another ride. She tells Zoyle to take help from the rookies without telling them what is actually going on, because this is a state secret. In the RV, Clive wakes up and tries to choke Paul, but Graham informs him that Paul is friendly. Clive says this can't be real because Paul looks too much like the cliché of an alien, and Paul replies that the government has been feeding the people this image of an alien through pop culture for many years, so that if one day humans and Paul's people do interact, humans don't panic. Next, Clive, Graham, and Paul come across the roadblock set up by the Big Guy's rookies. The rookies are named Haggard and O'Reilly. Clive and Graham step out of the RV while the rookies search it, not even knowing what they are searching for. All they end up finding is Clive's peed pants and signed fantasy novel, which O'Reilly obsesses over because he is a nerd too. Haggard admires the cover art. It shows a woman with 3 breasts. He thinks it's awesome. Clive and Graham get back inside the RV and see that Paul is not there. They assume that they both just hallucinated Paul, but he suddenly appears on the dashboard. He reveals that he has the power to become invisible, but he can only do it while he holds his breath, which isn't very long. Clive starts panicking about the fact that if they get caught, they'll end up in jail forever. But Graham convinces him that they need to help Paul. It's their calling. Zoyle meets up with Haggard and O'Reilly and asks them if they saw anyone unusual stop by at the roadblock. They tell him that they only met 2 people in an RV, one of whom had peed in his pants. Zoil remembers that there was pee at the car crash scene and deduces that this must be a lead. Meanwhile, Clive, Graham, and Paul stop at a gas station and get some snacks. Next, Clive demands that Paul tell them his whole story and also where they are going, since they are risking their lives for him. Paul says he's not telling them too much for their own safety so that they have plausible deniability. However, he mentions that he stayed at a government base for many decades, where he thought he was a guest, but recently learned that he was actually a prisoner. Suddenly, a bird crashes into the RV, making everybody jump. They step out to look at the bird, and Paul picks its dead body in his hands. He closes his eyes and concentrates really hard, and the bird gets healed and comes back to life. Graham and Clive are amazed at Paul's powers. However, Paul proceeds to eat the bird, which disgusts them. Zoil, Haggard, and O'Reilly follow the gang to the gas station, where they interrogate the gas station owner. Zoil discusses the situation with the big guy, and Haggard's radio picks it up. He starts to get some idea as to what this is about. In the RV, Graham asks Paul if he's ever healed a person like he healed that bird. Paul says he hasn't, because when he heals a being, it takes a physical toll on him, and the toll of healing a dead human might be enough to kill him. The 3 of them get tired of driving and decide to stop at an RV park for the night. At the RV park, they are greeted by a devout Christian woman named Ruth, who only has one working eye. Graham is immediately taken by her. She asks to hold on to Clive's passport for the night as insurance. At night, Graham, Clive, and Paul have dinner and chat. Clive asks Paul how he ended up on Earth, and he replies that he came on a scientific mission, but something went wrong with his spaceship, and it crashed. He was rescued from the wreckage of the ship by a little girl, and then the government came and took him away. Clive asks what he's been doing for all these years, and Paul replies that he's been doing things like advising the government and influencing pop culture. He reveals that the movie E.T. was entirely his idea. Paul and the boys have a fun night eating, listening to music and dancing, and Ruth spots 3 sets of feet dancing from a distance and overhears Paul's voice. The next morning, she decides to visit them, since they seem like nice people. Paul hides in the bathroom, and Clive and Graham greet her. She asks where's the 3rd man, and Paul loudly announces that he's in the bathroom. As Clive, Graham, and Ruth talk, she asks them if they are Christians. They say they are men of science, and Ruth starts preaching to them. Tired of her preaching, Paul starts countering her arguments from the bathroom. Ruth says God made man in his own image, and completely done with her preaching, Paul steps out and asks who created him then. Ruth faints at the sight of him. Graham says that now that Ruth has seen Paul, they can't leave her. They have to take her with them. The other 2 reluctantly agree. Clive remembers that his passport is still at Ruth's house, and Paul becomes invisible to go and collect it. When he sees Clive's picture, Paul laughs and loses his breath, making him visible again. Ruth's father comes out and sees him. Thinking he's a demon, Ruth's father chases Paul with a gun, and he barely makes it to the RV in time to escape. Next, Ruth awakens and also thinks that Paul is a demon. She starts going crazy, and to shut her up, Paul grabs her head and transfers the sum of his complete knowledge and experiences to her, so that she can know for a fact that he is an alien from another planet, and not a demon. Graham says that he wants to see too, and Paul does it to him as well. Clive gets jealous that he's left out. Ruth's father calls the police to report what he saw, and Zoil arrives with the 2 rookies. He takes a picture of Ruth in order to find her. However, Ruth's father sets out to find her himself too. Meanwhile, Haggard gets more and more curious about what they are looking for. Ruth is upset because she was taught that this world is the only world with life that God created. But Paul's presence means that all her beliefs are a lie. Graham comforts her. Meanwhile, Paul gives Clive his knowledge too, so that he doesn't feel left out. Ruth realizes that since all her beliefs are false, she is free to do the things that she wouldn't do before. She curses, kisses Graham, and grabs his testicles. Graham offers her to come with them so that she can travel and have the adventures that her strict Christian father didn't let her have. She agrees. In the RV, Paul befriends Ruth and heals her eye for her, damaging his own a little in the process. Next, Ruth says that she should call her father and let him know that she is okay, so that he doesn't call the police. They stop at a local restaurant, and unbeknownst to them, the rednecks from earlier and Ruth's father are both stopped at the same restaurant. Ruth calls home, but her phone is tapped by Zoil, and he traces her location. The two rednecks spot Clive and Graham, and a fight ensues. Amidst the fight, Ruth's dad runs into Ruth and is shocked to see her healed eye. The rednecks chase the gang to the RV, but at the last moment, Paul reveals himself, and the rednecks faint from shock. Paul and the gang drive away and stop at another RV park for the night. Paul says they should go out for food. Ruth is worried people will see him, but Paul says it's the dead of the night, and he can become invisible if someone does show up. They cross the deserted town and have a bonfire in a nearby forest. Graham asks Paul why he's in such a hurry to leave now, after being on Earth for decades. Paul says that he has told the government all he can, shared all of his knowledge. Now they are after his abilities, and for that they want to cut into his brain, which he is obviously not okay with. He says he had a friend at the government base who helped him get an SOS to his planet, and now they are on the way to pick him up. The next morning, the boys wake up and find that Ruth has gone back to the RV. However, they realize they cannot take Paul, because it's morning and the town is no longer deserted. Paul says he can't hold his breath all the way across the town, so they put him in disguise. They attract a lot of attention despite the disguise, so they decide to change plans. Paul and Clive hide in a comic book shop, while Graham goes to get the RV so he can bring it to them. Zoil arrives at the RV park and questions door to door. He reaches the gang's RV but doesn't recognize Ruth because she has both her eyes now. Back at the comic book shop, O'Reilly arrives, and Paul hides by pretending to be a statue, while Clive puts on an alien mask. As a joke, O'Reilly decides to check the statue for testicles, which makes Paul break character, as it would for anyone. O'Reilly runs out screaming. Haggard enters the shop and spots Paul, and a chase ensues. Graham and Ruth arrive and pick the other two up. Ruth's father is also in town and spots all this. He starts chasing after them in his own truck. Haggard and O'Reilly tell Zoil that they know the truth and they saw the alien. He orders them to go back home while he handles this. Paul and the gang evade Ruth's father and Zoil by hiding behind a giant sign. Next, Paul tells the gang that he will be going forward alone because he doesn't like how much danger he's putting them in. However, all three humans refuse to give up on Paul. Paul is moved. Next, Paul asks the gang that he needs some massive fireworks, and Clive and Graham go to buy some. However, they have no cash, so they rob the fireworks store. The 911 call from the store informs Zoil of their location. However, Zoil's radio is being picked up by both Ruth's dad and Haggard and O'Reilly, who want to snatch this case from Zoil to get a promotion. The gang arrives at a lonely house in the middle of nowhere, and Graham asks if this is where Paul is going to be picked up. Paul says no, but this is something that he has to do before leaving. They knock on the door, and an old woman named Tara answers. She gets angry upon seeing Paul. It is revealed that Tara was the little girl whose dog Paul crushed upon crash landing on Earth, and who saved Paul from the wreckage of his ship. Tara says that after the government took Paul away, nobody believed her, and people all her life have been telling her that she is crazy. She's lived as a complete social outcast. Paul apologizes to her and she forgives him because she is just happy to know that she is not actually crazy. She turns on the gas in her stove to make tea, but mid-conversation, forgets to light it. Just then, Zoil arrives, and unbeknownst to him, so do Haggard and O'Reilly, and behind them, Ruth's dad. The two rookies attack the house, and amidst the commotion, Paul knocks out Zoil from behind, and the gang escapes, along with Tara. O'Reilly doesn't notice the gas leaking in the house, and fires a weapon at them, causing the house to explode, killing him. Next, the gang is speeding down the highway in the RV, while being chased by Haggard and Ruth's father. Haggard shoots at Ruth's father and forces him off the road, but he is then pushed off a bridge himself by Paul, who is driving the RV. Zoil contacts the big guy, and she tells him that this is out of his hands. She's bringing in the military. Zoil continues chasing Paul anyway. Paul and the gang arrive at the top of a high mountain, where Paul lights the giant fireworks to let his people know he's there. Unfortunately, the fireworks also alert Zoil. Paul and the gang are waiting for Paul's rescue to arrive when they see some lights coming through the trees. However, it is not Paul's rescue ship. It's a military helicopter, and out of it comes the big guy herself, along with a SWAT team. Just then, Zoil arrives, but instead of shooting Paul, he shoots the SWAT team members. It is revealed that he was Paul's friend on the government base. He was actually looking for Paul in order to help him. Zoil kills the SWAT team, but the big guy pulls out a gun and shoots Zoil in the shoulder. She points the gun at the rest of the gang and tells Graham, Clive, Ruth, and Tara that they are all going to prison for life. They all step up to defend Paul and fight the big guy. She easily defeats Graham and Clive, but a punch from Tara knocks her out. Just when it looks like all problems are dealt with, Ruth's father arrives and points a gun straight at Paul. As he shoots, Graham steps in the path of the bullet and gets shot. He falls with a gaping wound in his chest and dies in Clive's arms. While Ruth and Clive cry, Paul touches Graham on the chest and closes his eyes. Zoil asks him to reconsider this because it could kill him, but Paul says he has to try. As he heals Graham, the wound forms on his chest instead. Graham comes back to life and Paul is knocked back unconscious. Zoil rushes to a completely comatose Paul, but after a few scary moments, Paul breathes. He's managed to withstand the toll. Ruth's father simply assumes Paul is a messiah sent by the Lord. The big guy gets back up and points a gun at the gang again, but a spaceship lands on top of her and kills her. Paul's rescue has arrived. Next, Paul says goodbye to all his Earth friends except for Tara. He asks Tara to come with him. He says that he ruined her life, so it's only fair that he gives her a new one. Tara gladly agrees. Paul hugs Clive and Graham, and Clive gives his novel to Paul to take with him. Paul hands it to one of his alien friends. The alien sees the woman with 3 breasts. He thinks it's awesome. Finally, Paul's ship flies away, and the Earthlings wave him goodbye. 2 years later, Clive and Graham return to Comic-Con, but this time as world-famous authors of a novel made out of the story of their adventure called Paul. The End. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.